Hannah. I'm a tutor at Sky Academy, and we are in the topic of statistical analysis within the Year 11 standard course. And we're looking at classifying and representing data which comes under MS S1. So in this video, we're going to have a look at grouped frequency tables. So a group frequency table is another way of representing data into a table. So a group frequency table will have 4 columns and the data will go into each column. So our first column, which is in step 1, will have a class interval. So classes or groups. We're going to call them class intervals. Then in the next column, you'll have a class center. Then you'll have a tally. And lastly, you'll have a frequency column. So what do these columns mean? Well, we'll start with class intervals. So class intervals is where the whole group of data that you have, the total data, is broken up into smaller groups. And so all the data points will lie within these smaller groups and the intervals won't overlap each other. So what I mean for this is that if we have 30 data points ranging from 0 to 29, so it's a total of 30, we get to choose how we break up our class intervals into smaller groups. So the grouped frequency tables prefer divisions of 5 to 15 groups. And they want you to choose class intervals that are easy to read, such as groups of 10 or groups of 5. So what we're going to do, since we have 30 data points, is I'm going to choose to break this into 6 groups with 5 in each. And so what that is going to look like is me counting to make sure I have all my data in the class intervals. So I'm going to do my class intervals in pink. So my first one is going to be from 0 to 4. Because if I count, that will give me 5 values. And so that will be my first group or my first class interval. So it will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's my 5 values there. Then I'll do the same, but I'll start at 5. So I'll go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So my 5th interval will give me to 9. Then I will go to the next one, which will start at 10. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So that 3rd interval will go to 14. Then I'll start from 15 and go 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And then I'm just going to go up here for some more room. Then we'll start at 20 and we'll count out 5 data points. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. And then lastly, we should have 25 to 29 and we can check 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. So that gives me 5 data points within my last interval. So there I have 6 intervals with 5 data points in each interval. So they are evenly placed and spread out. We have no gaps existing. So for example, we didn't start from 0 to 3 and then go 5 to 9 because that means we would miss out on the data point of 4. So there is no gaps within our class intervals. And we have no overlaps. So I said this before, but you need to make sure your class intervals have no overlaps. For example, you don't go from 0 to 4 to 4 to 5. Because if you have a data point of 4 and you want to figure out what class interval to put it in, do you put it in this top one or the second one? Because they both have the data point of 4 in it. So where do you put 4? Do you put it in both? You're not sure. So that's why we can't have any overlaps. So that's how you choose your class intervals. You just divide your total data set into smaller, evenly spaced groups. So next we have the class center. And the class center is just the median of the class intervals. So for example, if we have a look at this class interval down below of 10 to 14, if I was to find the class center of this, I would firstly have to count the number of data points within this class interval. So we have 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we have 5 data points lying within this class interval. So to find the median, you do the number of data points, which was in this case 5, you plus 1 to it, and then you divide it by 2. And so that will give us the class interval of 3. The class center of the third value. So what do I mean by the third value being your class center? Well, if you write out everything within your class interval, so we have 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, the halfway point or the median will be the third value. So we go 1 here, 2 here, 3 here. So this will be our median. And to check that it's our median, we can have a look and say there should be an even number of data points on either side of the median. So if we look on this side towards the left, we can see we have 2 data points. And if we look towards the right, we have 2 data points. So the value of 12, which is the third value, is evenly spaced in the middle. So it will be the class center of that class interval. So that's how you find the class center. You find the median, which is the number of scores within that class interval, plus 1 divided by 2, and whatever the third value is, or it could be the 4th or 5th or 6th value is, that would be your class center. Then we have the tally, and the tally is just the number of times a score occurs. And so if we have the score of the data set of 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, and 5, then we know that the score of 3 will occur twice. And we can represent that in a tally by doing sticks. So we would do 1, 2 for 3, and we'd have 1 stick for everything else. So this tally of 2 sticks indicates that class is occurring twice. So at the end of this tally step here, step 3, when we go across the end, it says in groups of 5. So what that means is if you have a score occurring 7 times, you do it in groups of 5. So when you get to the 5th score, you put a diagonal tally through the 4 that you have, and you add 2. So that would equal 7. So you have a group of 5 sticks, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1 diagonally to make 5, and then 2 next to it. So that's what a tally is. They're like what you see in movies when prisoners are in jail and they count down the days they have been in jail and they make a tally on the wall. So if you've ever seen that, that's what a tally is, and that's what we use in grouped frequency tables. And then finally, we have the frequency column, which is the total count of scores in each class, but in numbers. So say we have a tally of, we'll just stick with 7. That would indicate 7, but we also can just write 7 in the frequency column. So that is a grouped frequency table. And let's have a go at the next slide to do an example. So here we have been asked to complete the table using the data below. So if we have a look, they've already given us the table drawn up, and they've given us the start towards the class intervals. So their first class interval is from 0 to 4. So that would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So they are having groups with 5 in each. So if we have a look at our data set, our first job would to be finish the class intervals. So if we have a look at our data set, we have values ranging from 0 as the lowest to 34 as the highest. So data points ranging from 0 to 34 give us a total of 35 data points. So now we know this information, we can use this to finish the class intervals. Because if we know that we are having groups with 5 in each, if we divide 35 by 5 to give us 7, that's how many class intervals we need to have. And if we count down here, we need to have at least 7 rows for our class intervals. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we have just enough rows for each of our class intervals. So we're going to have 7 intervals with 5 data points in each interval. So now we can do the next one, which will be 10 to 14. We can check that. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There's 5 in that interval. And you'll see that it starts to make a pattern. We can see the pattern with a 0, then a 4, then a 0 and a 4, and a 0 and a 4, and a 0 and a 4, a 5 and a 9, a 5 and a 9, 5 and a 9. So we can see that there will be patterns when we're making our class intervals, which make it a little bit easier to distinguish which interval is which. So now we've got our class intervals, 7 groups with 5 in each. We can find the center of each group. So we know that there's 5 in each. So to find the median, we can do 5 plus 1 and divide it by 2 to give us 3. So wherever the third value is within our class intervals, that is going to be the median, because we'll have even number of data points on either side. So if we just do 0 to 4 as an example, we'll have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. The third data point will be 1, 2, 3. So our class center will be the third data point, which will be number 2. And we'll do 5 to 9. So we'll do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we know that 7 is going to be the third data point. So that will be the class center. Then we'll do 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 12 will be the third data point. So that will be the class center. And hopefully you can see a pattern here as well. So we can see a 2, a 2, a 2, a 2, a 7, a 7, and a 7. So there will be patterns when you're doing the class intervals because they're evenly spaced out. So now we have all the information that we can do without looking at the data set. So now we have to look at our data set, which is up here with values 0 to 34. And we are going to tally up however many data points lie within each class interval. So we have an interval of 0 to 4. So every data point that lies within this one, we're going to give it a tally. So if we have a 0, so that's 1 tally. We have another 0, so that's going to be another tally, another 0, another tally, another 0, another tally, a 2, but we don't do another tally because remember we want groups of 5, so I'll do a diagonal tally. Then we'll do another 0, a 3, another 0, a 1, a 0, a 0, and a 2. So we have a tally of 12. So in our frequency column, we can write 12. Now we're going to do the same for values 5 to 9. And I highly recommend crossing off the values as you go so you know where you're up to and you don't lose track and accidentally write a number in twice. So here we go, values 5 to 9. So we have a 6, we have a 9, we have a 5, we have a 8. So that's a tally of 4. Now we can do 10 to 14. So we have a 14, we have a 10, and that's all we have. So a tally of a frequency of 2. 15 to 19, so we can go across. We have a 17, and that's all we have. So it's a frequency of 1. 20 to 24, we have a 23, and another 23. So that's a tally of 2 and a frequency of 2. 25 to 29, we have a 25, so we pop that in, and that's all we have, so it's a frequency of 1. And then finally a 33, a 32, a 34, and another 32. So that would be a frequency of 4. So that's how you find a grouped frequency table. The hardest things to figure out is the class interval, which is where you break up the total data set into small, evenly spaced groups. The class center, which is the median of the class interval, and then the tally, making sure you don't miss a number.